Hello everyone, hello. This is day 16 of 30 days Java challenge. Today we're going to talk about very important data type which is highly used in any programming language. Can you make any guesses? Yes, you are right. The topic is string. In this video we're going to talk about what is string, why string has been given a special position in the field of Java or other programming languages, and we'll see all of that with hands-on. Let's get started. Strings. So what is a string, right? So string normally, so far what we have done is that I can go and define a string something like this. For example, string name equals to Vishwa. Now when I go and define things like this, I think it's very easy for us to get tricked that this is also a kind of a literal. Just like we have another layer, the data types, for example, literal data types, for example, int, char, boolean, we end up saying the string is also literal data type. But string in Java is something more detailed. String in Java is basically a class, right? And also a special type of a class called as an immutable class. String in Java is considered to be immutable. Now, first of all, let's uncover one thing after another. So let's try to first of all understand that what is a immutable class, right? So first of all understand that what is a immutable class. Again, this is a very important interview question. Interview will ask you that what is an immutable class. Immutable class is a type of a class in which what happens once you have created an object, once the object is created, it can't be modified. You cannot go and change the state of the objects once it is created if it is from an immutable class. And in order to achieve this, so that none of the state gets changed, what all things that we might have to do? We have to make sure that the fields are private and final. Private because so that nobody can access it, and final because once a field is recognized as a final is again a keyword in Java. When you go and put it over a class, that it means that the class cannot be extended. If you go and put the keyword final before a variable, it means that the value of the variable cannot be changed. Another way of doing is that you should have no setter methods. So immutable class is a class whose object, if you go and create, once created, it cannot be changed. You cannot go and modify the state of the object. And this we normally achieve by making the fields private, finals, and there are no setter methods. Now let's try to go directly to our code and see that how we can go and define an immutable class. So I'll go to my Eclipse. So now what we do is that let me go and define a class which is immutable. So let me go and create a class and let me go and call this class as immutable class, right? So we're going to call it immutable person class. Fair enough. Now if I have to make a class immutable, the very first thing that I need to do is that I have to make this class final. So I'm going to use a keyword called as final here. When I go and make use of final keyword before a class, right sir, when I go and make use of the final keyword before a class which I have used, this is a keyword which ensures that I cannot go and extend this class. It means that I cannot have a child class which extends immutable person. That's what the final does. Why do it? Because if I have to make it immutable and if I allow the classes to go and extend it, the subclass might go and change the properties of the objects which will violate the condition of its immutability. So that's why the first condition is that you have to make that class final. Again, this is a very basic question. People might ask you in an interview that write a code of defining a class which is immutable. Fair enough. So this is what we the first step that we do. Once we have done this, then let's say that we have to go and define few fields. We're going to define few fields, for example, private string name. We make it private because of the object-oriented principle called as encapsulation, which told us that the field has to be made private. And then we have something called as private end age. Now I don't want these values, these fields value to be updated over a period of time, and if for that what I need to do it, I want that once it is set, it should not be changed. Further, I make a use of keyword call as final, right? I go and make use of keyword call as final. So as soon as you make this field final, it means that once the value has been set initial, you cannot update. It's final before the field make that the name value can't be updated. And that's why as soon as I did it, you see here there's an error which is coming up, because said that dude, you have called it as final, you will not be able to set this value later, so it's good and it's needed that you should set it right now itself. So I had two options, either I go and initialize the value here itself, or I have to go and set the initial values of these final fields using a constructor. So the good practice is that we should have a constructor, we should go and set the values of this field. So I go and define a constructor. Right now, again for defining the constructor, let's try to do a shortcut. In Eclipse, when you go and right click and click on the source, you have something called as generate constructor using the fields. You can go and select which are the fields. These are the two fields. So I go and generate. So I went ahead and generated a constructor with these fields. The third part was that I had to make the class final. That's number one. I have to make the fields final and private. And the third part was that there should be no setters. There should be no setter methods. The only thing that we should do is that if needed, we can go and provide the getter method. So I'll just go and generate the getter methods, again making use of the Eclipse. I go and click right click, and then I click on the source, and then I go and say that generate getters and setters, and inside this I need to only do the getters. Let me remove this source. Now here I have the option of generating both the getters and the setters. What I'll have to do is that getters generate. Now when I go and do this, I have only selected the getters, so I only got the getters here typically. And also the Eclipse is very much smart, since I've already set this field as the final, so it is not set up the setters. So the class that you see here on the screen right now, on the screen is an example of a immutable class. And an immutable class will go and create the immutable objects. Now the next question is that why do you need to have immutable classes? What is the advantage of creating the immutable classes, right? So if I go and talk about the advantages, what are the advantages of creating immutable classes? Since it is immutable, sir, in the case of multi-threaded environment where the multiple threads are trying to go and change the state of the objects, you can be very peaceful. You don't have to worry much around things. So it is, first of all, one of the biggest advantage that it brings to the table is that it gives the thread safety. Now if you are not able to make much sense here that what is the meaning of thread safe, what is the meaning of thread itself, just wait for some time. Later on, in later part of this course, we go and talk about the multi-threading. That is when this will start making sense to you people. The number two part is simplicity. The number two part here is simplicity. When you make a class immutable, you don't have to worry much on things. You don't have to run the complicated blocks of the code to ensure that the state of the object is changing very rapidly, right? So it makes things very simple. Third is that it's secure. Why secure? Because I know that once the object is created, no matter what and who tries, its state cannot be changed and modified. So it makes things a little more secure, right? And the number last but not the least, it is also leads to the the optimization of space. How the optimization of space we'll try to understand with the help of example of the string also, right? So string in the world of Java is also immutable. Now no one has mentioned explicitly that why did they made string as immutable. It was a call of the Java developers, but if we try to understand that what could be the reasons why string was made immutable, I think these are the same reasons, right? If I go and talk about, so this is another very common interview question, that why string is immutable in Java. This is again going to be a very common and very hugely asked question in the interviews, and I want you people to master this question. Now, why string is immutable in Java? The very first thing is that, yes, if you make string immutable in Java, it becomes thread safe. It means that even if it is a multi-threaded environment, you don't have to work around, because once string object has been created, it cannot be modified. That's number one. Number two is that it adds to the security. It adds to the security. String is one of the most commonly used data type for storing very important information. For example, database connectors, for example, URLs for the username and the password. Since it is immutable, it ensures to us that no matter who tries, but its value cannot be changed. So it's secure. And the third thing is that it helps in the space optimization. Space optimization, right? And this is being done with the help of a concept called as a string pooling, or sometimes also called as interning. Now this itself is a very important concept, and let's try to understand that what the string pooling or interning is. Now, since string is one of the most commonly used class object, or you can call it as a data type in the world of the Java, left, right, everywhere you want to make use of the string. So the Java maker ensured that what should we do so that the space which the string takes is minimized, and that's why they brought the concept called as the string pool. Now, if we're going to talk about the string, sir, if I go and talk about the string can be created in the two ways. One of the most commonly used way of creating the string is that you can say that literal way. You can say that string name equals to Vishwa. As soon as you do it, you know that string is a class, and this will go and create an object. Objects are created in a memory space called as heap, right? So let's say this is a memory space called as a heap. In a heap, there is a special location called as string pool. So as soon as you go and create a string in this literal way, right, the Java internal goes and see that in the string pool is Vishwa already present. If Vishwa is not present, it will go and create Vishwa inside the string pool, and in this case the number of objects created is 1. Number of object created is equals to 1 in this case. Now again, after some time, let's say that I go and say that string name 1 again equals to Vishwa. Again, since it is Vishwa only, I'll go and check in the string pool, is Vishwa present? If the Vishwa is present, I'll not do anything. No object gets created. In this case, 0 objects get created. And now the situation is, I have two variables, name and name1. Both of them are pointing to the same string object which got created in the string pool. This is a one way of defining the string. Now there's another way through which also you can go and create a string, and that is the constructor way. How do we do it? We go and say like this. We go and say something like this: string name 2 equals to new string, and then you go and say that Vishwa. Now be very careful here. When I go and do this, string name 2 equals to new string Vishwa, first of all this line gets triggered and it goes and see that in the string pool is the Vishwa present. Yes, it is present, so it doesn't do anything. And then this whole new string Vishwa gets created, which goes and creates a Vishwa object somewhere in the heap, just like any normal object. And then this name 2 starts pointing to this Vishwa itself. So here also, how many objects got created? In this case also, I got created one object. Fair? Now let me write one more statement, and you guys please pause the video and tell me what could be the answer. If I go and say that name 4 or name 3 equals to new string, and I go and call it as Mohan. I have string name 3 equals to new string Mohan. And this is the case. What do you think? What will happen? How many objects will be created? Now, if I go and try to see, first of all, this thing will kick in. It will go and see if in the string pool Mohan object is present or not. Yes, Mohan object is not present, so it will go and create one Mohan object here. And then this whole constructor thing will create. So again, a Mohan object will be created outside somewhere, just like any normal object. And this name3 will start pointing to this. So when I go and trigger this one, this will go and create two objects. So please be careful about this, and this is going to be one of the tricky questions that could be asked from you in the interview. Fair enough? Now let's move on and let me give you another question. So let me go and open my Eclipse. Okay, and let me go and define a class called as string. New class, let me go and call it as a string learning. Okay, and let me go and define a method called as public static void main public static void main string args, like this. Fair. Now let me go and write few things. Let me go and define one function as string s1 equals to abc, and let me go and define another string s2 equals to new string abc, and let me go and define the third one, which is the string s3 equals to abc. And then let me go and write s1 equals to s2, and then I go and say this is out, s1 equals to s3. Can you guys make a guess? What should be the output of this statement? What should be the output of this statement? Now if I go and try to run this, right, if I go and try to run this, run as Java application, I go and see that this value turns out to be false, right? If I go and see this value turns out to be false, and this value turns out to be true. Can you guys give me the reason? Can you just pause the video and try to think the reason why it happened? We know that this s1, s2 and s3, they are nothing but a reference variable. They are not actually storing the object. Or I can say that they just go and store the address. So when I go and do this, let's assume that this is my heap, and inside the heap I have a location called as string pool. Now in this case, as soon as I go and hit this, it goes and find if ABC is present in the string pool. No, not present, so it goes and puts ABC inside the string pool, and this S1 starts pointing to ABC, and let's say that address of ABC is something like 1 2 3 4 5. So S1 is basically 1 2 3 4 5. Now again I move to the next step, which is the string S2 equal to new string ABC. First this line is executed, ABC is already present, nothing happens, and then this entire new string gets executed. So it goes and creates a new object called as ABC somewhere here, and S2 is now pointing to this, and this is another location. Let's say that location number is 78910. Now when I go and hit the third one, string S3 equals to ABC, ABC is again in the string pool itself. So S3 is also pointing to the same location ABC. So it will also have 1 2 3 4 5. So when I go and do this, S1 is equals to S2. S1 is pointing to ABC. S2 is pointing to the different object. So this value is storing 1 2 3 4 5. Let's say assume that this value is storing something else, which is 78910. So this value is not same, so this value turning out to be false, which is printing here. But when I go and say S1 and S3 both are pointing to the same, so the value turns out to be true. So now if my main intent is that I want to go and compare two string based on the values that it contains, this is not the right way. So for the string, whenever we have to go and compare, I should never use equal to operator. So what should I use? So whenever I have to go and compare two string, I should make use of something called as dot equals method. So I can say here, if I have to compare S1 and S2, the better would be I go and say that sys out, and I'll go and say that S1 dot equals, and I go and part S2, and similarly I can go into the S1 dot S3. Now if I go and run this, the value is coming out to be 2, because now I'm actually trying to check the values or compare the values of the objects, not the references of the object itself, right? So this is how typically the string pool works. And going ahead, whenever you have to go and compare two objects, the right approach is not making use of this equal to operator. You should make use of this equals, which is used for comparing objects. So now, since we have understood that string is immutable, string, how do you go and compare it, let's try to talk about a few more useful methods of the string. Now there are a huge list of the methods, it doesn't make sense to go through all of them. We'll go and talk about few of the very important methods which comes very frequently, and as and when you need more, you can always go to the Java documentation and see that what all methods the string has. So now let's talk a little bit before we go and talk about, let's say that I go and define a string something like this. String name is equals to Vishwa. Now how you can infer string is that it's more of like a array of characters. What that means, that just like in the array you have the indexes that you make starting from the 0, 1, 2 till the length of the last element of the array. In the case of the string also, you can make the indexes. For example, v is at the index 0, I is at the index, let me use another color, v is at index 0, I is the index 1, s is the index 2, h is in the index 3, w is in the index 4, and a is in index 5. So these are the indexes. And if I go and say what is the size of this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So size of this is equals to again 6. So the index value of a string always varies between 0 to size minus 1. This is exactly how it used to happen in the world of array itself. Now using this context, let's try to talk about few of the important methods that is there in the case of the string. So let me go and open my Eclipse here, and let's do one thing. Let me go and comment all these things that we have already written, right? And let's say that I have something called as a string name equals to Vishwa Mohan. Fair? My string name is Vishwa Mohan. I want to know that how many characters are there, what is the length of it. So for that, string gives me a method called as length, and I can just go and type it like sys out name, and as soon as I put a dot, Eclipse helps me tells all the different methods that you have available in the string. As I said, there are huge list of the methods. You can click on any of that and try to go and see the documentation of it, which you can always do, right? But I'm going to make use of a method called as a length, right? So it is a method called as length, right? So string has a method called a length, which tells me how many characters this particular word has, which is stored in the string named name. So if I go and run this, right, it is telling me that the characters is 12. Let's try to verify it. So if I go and count it, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then space is also a 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and that's how the answer is 12. So length is again a very commonly used method that you'll end up whenever you have to go and solve a problem related to the string to know that what is the size of the given string. Perfect. Now the next important method that we're going to talk about, that, see, this is the entire string that you have, right? Here this is the entire string. But if I go and take a part of this string, for example, if I go and say that VIS, or I go and say that MOHAN, or I go and say it MOH. These are all the subparts of the string, and these are called as substrings. Many times out of a big string, we would like to take a part out of it, and that will be called as the substring. How do we do it? Java has given us a method called as substring method to get the part of the string itself. Let's try to understand its way, right? So let's say this is the given string that I have. Let me go and comment this out. And now let's try to talk about the substrings. So I go and say this is out, and then I go and say the name dot substring, right? And here I go and say that name dot substring, and let me go and put it as 1. And let's try to also go and put something called as 3, right? Let's try to run this. If I go and run this, in the first case when I started from the 1, this is getting me the value Vishwa Mohan, and when I'm trying from the third index, it is what it is printing me. Now if I go and talk about the first original sentence itself, it has a 0 index, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. There were 11, there are 12, 13, no, there are 12 total alphabets in this, including the space, the white space, and the index starts from 0 to 11. Now when I go and say that you go and find me a substring starting from the 1, it means that you want to start from the first index. The first index is I, and that's why from here till last is what I get here, Vishwa Mohan. When I go and say 3, I want to start from the third index, which is this, and from here till last, so the value is this one, and that's why it's printing HWAMOI. So the first variation of the substring gives you the starting index, and to provide the starting index, all the alphabet from that index till the last will be taken out, and that will be called as a substring. Now one point to note here is when I did this, this doesn't get changed, because it is immutable. What happened? This is newly created, new string object gets created. So when I go into this, a new string object is getting created here. Fair enough? Cool. Now there is another variation of substring here. What is that variation? So in the same thing, I can also go and say that where I want to start and where I want to end. So I can say that I start from 3, but go and end at 6th index. Okay. Let's try to run this and see what happens in that case. So when I go and run this, start from 3 and go till 6, the output that it is giving is HWA. Let's try to reveal now. So this has a 0 index, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now when I go and say that 3 till 6, it started from the third index, and then it is printed W, then it is printed A, and then there is a space index, right? Maybe the space is not showing up. Let's try to do something else. Let's try to make this as 9. If I go and make this 9 and save it and try to run this again, the value that is printing HWAMO, right? So let's again get started. So I have to start from 3 and I have to go till 9, right? So 3, H has come, W has come, A has come, then the space is also has come, then M has come, then O has come, but H, which is at 9, has not come. What it means that when you go and say something like this, substring A comma B, right? So in this case A is included, but B is excluded, boss. So A is included and B is excluded. So whenever you go and call the substring method with the two arguments, you start where the starting index is, but you stop one before the end index. One before the end index. Now let's try to also see that what if I don't want to provide the valid index. So if I go and try to do this and type something called as some negative number, right, and run this, it will go and tell me some string index out of bound exception. Why? Because I told you the value of the proper index value is always between the 0 till whatever is the string dot length minus 1. This is the valid values. So with this we got to understand that what are the substring method. Fair enough? Am I clear till this point? Now let's say that I want to understand that what is the element at nth position. For example, I want to say that what is the element at the third index. How can I go and get the value of it? So for doing this, again, let's go and comment this all new system.out.println statement that we have done. Right. So I have a method called as caret. So I can go and say that sysout, and I go and say that name dot char at, and I go and say that, let's say that fourth. If I go and run this, W list, I do go and check if it is correct, right? So if I go and put here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I go and see that yes, it is W, and that's perfectly correct. That's what I expected, right? So the fourth character is W itself. Now we have understood that from a given string, I can go and find the substring. What if I go and tell you that this is the substring and you have to go and find if it is present in the given string or not, right? So my scenario is that I have a substring and I want to know if it is present in the given string or not. That I'm able to do with the method called as index of. Let's try to understand this, right? So let's say that this name is Vishwa Mohan, something like this, okay? And then I go and say that sysout. I want to see that if this whole string has a substring Mohan in it or not, right? So I go and say that name dot index of, and go and provide something called as Mohan. So we're going to run this. It gets a value called 7. Now how it is 7? Let's try to understand. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the first occurrence of the Mohan has happened here. So I got the index of Mohan. So this always gives me the first occurrence of the substring. Fair enough. So I've got the first occurrence of the substring. What if I wanted to know the last, I wanted to know the next. So I can also go and say that from where to start with. So I can just go and make a changes into this. Let me go and copy this. And then let's say that I go and say that always start from 10th index. And if I go and run this now again, I see that if I go and provide the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Now if you see here, it is saying that start looking after the 10th index. So from here onwards, I have to start looking for the Mohan. And I know that it is 12. So the second one is getting me the index 13 here. First one is getting the 7. So this is how I can go and find the starting index of any string. Now there's so many methods, as I said. Let's talk about one more method which is going to be very helpful, and then we'll move to the next topic. And for the remaining, you can always either with the help of the Eclipse, you can go and find out what are the different methods available, or you can Google search the Java documentation to see what all string methods has to bring to the table. Let me go and comment this out. So let's say that I want to go and convert this in the form of the character array. This is a string, and I want to convert that into the character array. How do I do it? I do it with the help of symbol. So I can go and say that char and name array equals to name dot to char array. And as soon as I have done this, I can just to check it out, I can just go and print out few elements. So I can go and say that name array, and I want to say 0 index, what is the value? And similarly, I can go and say that provide the value at the second index. So if I go and run this, as you can see here, this to-char array convert the given string into the array, and then you can go and find the values of the array at the given index. And now there's again a method to go and convert this array back into the string. So string name from array, I can go and simply go and say that new string, and I can go and pass this array call as name array. right? And then again, this could simply sys out name from. So if I go and run this, right, this method converted the string to array, and I have another method in this case where I have converted array to string. So with all these conditions, I think we have enough information now to go and deal with strings in Java. So sir, finally we have come to the end of the day 16. We are marching very fast towards the goal of 30 days of learning Java. Today we talked about string. We saw that why string has been given such an important place in the ecosystem of the Java itself. The things that we have learned in this video will go a long way in helping us write more efficient code. I'm more excited for the next day. I hope to see you guys again in the next video, which will be of day 17. So let's get started and keep learning the content.